It's a good job, Pod.cannion, back with another reaction video. This is Signified B-Sides. And you see the title, The Masculine Urge to Join a Fascist Death Squad. Pretty much talking about ICE. Now, I'm gonna let Unc talk, but whatever he doesn't say that I feel like I need to, I'm gonna say it. Because obviously, you don't need to look on the news. ICE has been killing people when they shouldn't have. They're not. And it's so bad. It's so unfathomably bad. It's kind of, concerning that there are, people who work and vote who don't see, how bad this is. Like, you can look at it from a historical standpoint. You can look at it from other countries, like how third world countries are. I'm not going to go off the deep end until I know which direction he's going to go off of it. And then you know what I'm saying? Because this does run deep. There's a lot of angles you can look at this from. But yeah.
Not hate guns. In fact, I personally own at least one. Not only do I own a firearm, but unlike the vast majority of people that are gun owners, I've actually used mine in self-defense. I bought my first home in 2010, and it was burglarized not long after. In fact, it was burglarized multiple times. However, one day, I just happened to be at home when a handful of teenagers appeared at the back of my home trying to get in. For legal reasons, I won't get into many details, but let's just say I defended my home and nobody was hurt in the process. However, the experiences in the aftermath were very odd for me. When I told people the story of how I defended my home, I may have gotten a few pats on the back, but there was also this other thing I felt from certain men when I told this story. Envy and in some cases, judgment. Man, if that was me, I'd have blown them away. Wow, I wish I'd have been there. They lucky they never tried me like that because somebody would have left in a box. Yada, 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 kill people. I kill motherfuckers. A lot of shit like that. Mind you, I was fully aware that these were kids breaking into my house. Teenagers from the local high school. Little black boys doing some shit they had no business doing. Literally the types of kids I worked with and taught for most of my adult life at that time. Whenever I called police in years prior after getting robbed, they were real lathered up telling me just how I could legally kill these children if I just so happened to be in a position to do so. And these are both white cops and black cops. I made videos about both of those, by the way. Georgia is a stand your ground state, and if someone has broken into your home, you have the legal right to use deadly force to defend it. And I know this because I heard this over and over again from various people from various different backgrounds telling me with an almost euphoric, erotic desire how lucky I was to have had the opportunity to defend my home with violence, and in that same breath often saying how disappointing it was to them that I had not shot someone's 15-year-old son just to keep them from stealing my Xbox. And don't get me wrong, I vividly remember one of the times getting robbed. I had just bought off eBay or something an old PlayStation 2 just so I could find an old version of Final Fantasy 12, and I was going to do this broken meme run with the game where you could get this infinite level up trick where you could just leave your game on for a day and let it run with a few setting tweaks. The game would play itself and you'd come back and you'd be at level 100 or something, and I look forward to that all day only to come home and have it gone. I'm getting off topic, but the fact that that's what I was thinking about should tell you how I really feel about taking the lives of children. It's not my thing. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I think it's more like there's something wrong with y'all.
When patients are not caring for their lips, they become very painful. For keeping lips healthy, I recommend Bliss Text.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
I'm seeing the route he's about to take, because...
And a few years ago, I'm
going to let him break it down more, but I feel like I know where he's going.
Told this story on the video where I talked about edgelords, and that was because I was also in that same video talking about the movie Nobody. Some of you all may not remember it because it's kind of like a B-tier John Wick, which is already a B-tier, straight to video energy action movie. Nobody is an interesting examination of this masculine power fantasy of righteous violence, except it kind of revels in it in a way that I think is more honest, but I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Now, I'm sure there's some of you listening to this that thinks that this whole thing, everything I'm saying, sounds insane and is being made up. But most of you, at least according to my analytics, have probably witnessed a conversation like this before because you've probably been in enough male spaces to know that there's always at least one guy that is trying not to come in his pants at the idea of having the right to kill someone. Maybe he owns guns, maybe he doesn't, but he will soon. Maybe he wants to defend his unborn future child or their sister or his wife or girlfriend that he doesn't actually have. There's a lot of these corny, awful pictures of like dads holding guns up to their daughters' prom dates. This is a thing in how boys and men are socialized in this country, and it's probably why Renee Good and tons of other unarmed, innocent people have lost their lives in this country. I won't go as far as to say that everyone who ends up in the military or police force or ICE has this exact type of energy, but I will die on the hill that these are usually the types of people that do go into these fields, and they often have the most heinous records in terms of overreach and violence and outright killing of unarmed people. It doesn't take much effort to look through America's long history of police brutality to find examples literally on tape of these types of guys just looking for an excuse. Some of them outright will say it. So what's at the root of this? Why is this a thing in society? I think the answer is pretty straightforward, and it deals with men's socialized relationship with violence. Boys are raised to have a very paradoxical relationship with violence. On one end, it's instilled in boys very early on that they need to be capable of exerting and absorbing physical violence, and that without said capability, there will never be a real man. Because this is usually where they begin to learn to disregard bodily autonomy, both their own, but also their...
And once again, I feel like I should say, because I feel like he said it just to make sure, not everybody's upbringing, but just sort of like how people will be like usually women will be like, oh, I hate men. Like, clearly they're not talking about all men. It's just, you know what I'm saying, people who align with the vision that she has. Like, a lot of people, when they say like they hate a group of people, at least this is my optimistic view of it, I would hope that they don't think that like just because a group of people is like in that group that they have to act a certain way or be a certain way. But like, there are certain conditions, certain systems that heavily influence people in said groups to act certain ways and behave certain ways. It's certain pressures, you know what I'm saying? Not to say it's the mandatory and this is how everyone's upbringing is, but the the norm.
Autonomy of others, because bodily autonomy for young boys is something that you have to earn through your capacity to exert and withstand violence, your capacity to enforce your own autonomy. And in that same breath, you are also expected to test the autonomy of others in order to make sure that they're on the same grade as you are. And this is done through informal body rituals with little boys, whether it be something as benign as flicking someone in the ear or as heinous as the many stories of bullying or hazing that you might hear in a sports locker room in middle or high school. And that's where the paradox sets in, because you're pretty explicitly told to be capable of violence, but there's also a lot of conflicting rules around it. Yeah. Don't be a bully unless it serves a greater purpose or someone is asking for it. Don't hit women, but also don't let anyone emasculate you. And if they do, then it's your responsibility to reaffirm your masculinity with violence if necessary, regardless of who does it. Use your strength to protect and support others, but that also means you're in charge. And if people don't respect the fact that you're in charge, they're emasculating you, which means you might have to reaffirm that masculinity through violence. You see how this is a very...
Yeah, see, he's spitting. He is spitting. I can't lie to you.
An ugly thing that a lot of men are dealing with. However, at the end of the day, I want to be clear. Most men, the vast majority, even the worst of us, don't aspire to be violent psychopaths. Most men engage with this complex relationship with violence without actually committing acts of violence on other people.
Obviously, you know?
For whatever reason. And then some join ICE. Herschel Walker, I remember vividly. If you don't know, Herschel Walker is one of the greatest football players of all time, right? But he said himself that he almost didn't go to...
But he's a... no comment.
College because he wanted to join the army, because he wanted to kill people. This is a real story. And he is not alone in that regard. Goodness. Some of you don't hear these conversations. When you go into enough men's spaces with some of these dudes, they will let the mask slip. They will tell you. And that brings me back to the film Nobody. What's
Interesting.
interesting about Nobody is that it's one of the few films that's honest about this relationship with violence, about the movie's relationship with violence. When you look at a lot of I called them Sigma male action stars, made a video about it a little while back, because at the turn of the millennium, you saw a very distinct change in the way idealized masculinity was presented to Americans. It used to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was about to call him Rob Van Damme. Shout out, right? Anyway, alpha male idealized images of masculinity used to be these big, muscular, over-the-top figures. And with The Matrix and Jason Bourne and eventually on to John Wick now, that changed into more of an everyman, low-key, neurodivergent coded figure of these people that they weren't necessarily less masculine. It's just that the idealized masculinity was now this stoic, almost sociopathic figure that was able to effectively operate in this violent world while also staying very subdued and very calm. There were no more one-liners, no more sweat, no more dirt and muscles. It was just badass Sigma Wolf action males. Put the music behind me, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
At this point, you're probably not avoiding therapy because of stigma. You're probably
He is cooking right now.
However, Nobody has some of those features, but it's actually just more honest. It stars a very normal guy who happened to used to be a contract killer or enforcer of some type for the U.S. government, and he has traded that life for the trappings of what normative patriarchal masculinity says is supposed to satisfy a man, namely a wife and the kids and a house in the suburbs. However, the movie puts in a lot of energy to situate those things as unfulfilling and even demeaning. When Bob suffers a home invasion, it's Bob Odenkirk, by the way, and in the movie his name is Hutch. Okay. Bob Odenkirk, you know, from Better Call Saul. I never watched that. I probably should watch that. I heard it's pretty good. I need some new shit to watch.
I have heard that's good as well. I haven't watched it, but, you know.
Put some new shit I should watch in the comment section.
Facts.
But then his house gets burglarized, and he decides, even though he really could have very easily killed these two burglars, to let them go. And everyone, including his own son and his brother-in-law and everybody in his life, demeans him and emasculates him for the fact that he had the chance to kill someone with a righteous kill type situation, and he doesn't. He suffers this silently until he realizes that somebody actually stole something from his youngest daughter, and then he goes on a trek to find that particular thing. Hijinks and intrigue ensues, and it's very much worth the watch if you're an action fan. But what's interesting from the film is how we're made to recognize how much happier Odenkirk's character, Hutch, is now that he has reignited his relationship with violence. It's almost a love story in that way. It's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, except Mrs. Smith is violence itself. And again, it's a fun, ridiculous film. I never watched a sequel, but I figure it's just as good. But I found the underlying themes telling about how we imagine and even idealize men. In your John Wicks, it's obvious as a movie watcher that violence is cool. The assassin underworld is cool. But Wick as a character is above the violence itself 95% of the time. He doesn't seem like he's having fun. This is all just reflexive to him. But in Nobody, it's very clear that Odenkirk's character loves what he's doing. He loves that he finally has an excuse to let loose. The violence is more brutal. Instead of sleek nightclubs and Asian corporate buildings, they're fighting in abandoned factories and car shops and shit and public buses. And because of this, while Nobody is successful, I wonder if it's less popular because it's more honest about what this violent fantasy really is and really looks like to the people watching it. These folks that join ICE or the military or the police will tell you it's about a code or country or brotherhood or whatever.
They will.
And I'll give grace to say that to maybe a few of them that's true. But for others of them, it's just power. It's just the excuse to be rabid dogs who probably would have been put down in some other context. That's who we're dealing with right now and who we've been dealing with forever when it comes to the teeth of the state. And I'm not going to make any prescriptions as to how regular, everyday people should deal with these individuals, but I will say this. America...
Okay, before he says his last statement, because I don't want to lose this thought, which I'm probably already about to lose it, but pretty much what I was about to get at is a lot of these law enforcement, at least they have even though like I don't I don't fuck with a lot of law enforcement, a lot of military. I at least understand like majority of the people who are enlisting or what I'm saying applying to be in these positions, they I would at least hope they are coming into it with a hope to protect and serve or like yeah, I think even like with cops, like they're told like yeah, protect and serve the people. And it's like even though I may not think that a majority of cops and people do what they present themselves as doing, I at least what I'm saying, I can empathize with that attitude about it. You know what I'm saying? I can understand where you're coming from. But the thing with ICE is like even like you can't make that excuse in good faith with them. They are quite literally the secret police for Donald, and not even just Donald, because like this junk is getting a lot deeper, honestly, because really Donald's I don't think Donald's gonna be here much longer, but a lot of the people around him, they're setting up the foundation to fundamentally change this country. And of course, they're using the same formula. It's under the guise of oh, we're protecting this country from the worst of the worst, right? And it's like when y'all are actively killing people, when y'all are like the least threatening people, you as citizens, and you're having this guise of oh no, we're doing this to help protect the country, to keep the streets safe, and y'all are starting to run up numbers like oh my gosh, like do y'all really like put it into the context sometimes that like these are American citizens being who I American citizens is just the best description I can put for an ICE agent because honestly they are so much worse. But American citizens are practically getting hired to murder and police around other U.S. citizens, treat them like subhuman, and it's like y'all are gonna continue to support this, like to fund this, to be like, oh yeah, no, that's okay, because I'm not gonna be in that situation. It's like you seem kind of evil, and then it's like, yeah, like I always try to have the good faith of people like joining the things for the right cause, but the fact of the matter is, there are people who do have a little screws loose and who will join something for not its disguised cause, but for the actual cause that it is. Like, y'all might not like me for this, but like, a majority of police, I don't really think they're here to, like, I feel like protecting and like doing that, that's like a second priority for cops. Like, especially when you look at like, and this is why I say look at the history. If you look at the history of police, especially in the South, the origin of police was slave patrol, you know? And of course it merged with the North to become its own thing, but like it's like little facts like that are stuff that a lot of people ignore, but it's like you gotta have all the facts so that you can actually make an accurate sound of judgment, you know?
Is a gun-loving country, and leftists love their guns.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to media analysis, though, if you appreciate this discussion about how our views of law enforcement reflect ugly urges of authority and power, you might also like one of the best media analyzers to ever do it in their new video on the macabre story of body cam YouTube, coming from one Lindsay Ellis. In this video, she looks at hordes of...
I think that's the end of this video. This this definitely didn't go in the direction that I thought it was going to go in when I first clicked on it, but I'm glad that this is something that is being um addressed and like at least brought up, because it is a factor that like I don't really consider a lot, but it's so very true. Like you have to understand the types of people who are joining these organizations and feeling like they can do such heinous things and get away with it. Do literally unlawful things. Like with Alex Preddy, he got his, like, literally they violated his Second Amendment and his First Amendment. If we're being real, he was exercising his First Amendment, which was the right to protest peacefully. He didn't do any, like, and that's the thing. This government be lying to y'all. It lied to us. It lied to you. It said that Alex Purdy was an assassin. They said that he was about to open fire on ICE. But when you actually watch the video, and there are a lot of videos, you realize that not only was he not a threat, not only did y'all take his gun when he didn't pose a threat and he had the legal right to carry, but y'all shot the man in the back 10 times after he was no longer a threat. And people will see all that information and still try to find a way to frame it as the person's fault. You know what I'm saying? As anyone other than the as anyone other than ICE's fault. And the thing is, if you are using brain power to try to defend these type of people, not only, like, at the very least, you should be ashamed of yourself. But at the very most, like, you are helping not only, like, they never really cared about our rights, but you are actively helping take away the rights from everybody, if we're being for real. And you disgust me. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, if you still have some type of support for ICE, I genuinely need you to try to explain it in the comment section. You know, I'm gonna have another video talking about this, because I refuse to just let stuff like this happen and me not even say anything about it. Absolutely not. You know, like, I feel like every now and then I'll have time pass to see, like, more information about the situation, because I'm still trying to grow my channel at the same time. But also, I just realize and understand that a lot of these, you know what I'm saying, a lot of these people, we gotta be, you know what I'm saying, we have to organize. We have to be together with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's my that's my little yap. My thoughts are going to be more put together throughout the day, but this was something interesting that I'm gonna definitely take some time to think about. If y'all like the video, like and subscribe if you're new. All we do is chill over here. With that being said, y'all be great, be safe, keep getting to that bag. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video. Peace.